Some good news this week. Apparently the US watch market is growing, and we got a lot of cool new models from both of our favorite brands, Audemars Piguet and Richard Mille. Let's get the US watch market is growing news out of the way. A lot of guys out there will depend on us, Watchbox, other gray market dealers, some primary dealers, to sort of get a overall feel on the market. One of the companies we always look to is Watches of Switzerland. And they're usually a good indicator when it comes to looking at market growth. Primary, secondary, two different things. Well, they're not anymore. I think both markets have blended a long time ago, and you just get an overall indication. So a tiny little bit of news came from Watches of Switzerland, and they felt that the US market is underdeveloped when compared to other markets, which I found to be interesting, considering I always felt like the US market was always the biggest market, but perhaps in our sector, you have to consider things like Asia, which usually tend to be the bigger market.
And obviously, culturally, right, Europeans tend to like to spend more on, I would say, fashion items, luxury type items, as opposed to the US, where there's such a small percentage of people that even really know what
the US is mostly conservative, right? I will agree with you. Look, Watches of Switzerland did about $900 million in business in the U.S. They've been here 5-6 years. They did enter the U.S. market heavy by buying up some heavy hitters. They bought existing stores, some have been around for 100 years, right? Interestingly enough, Duffy noted an uptick in women and younger people embracing watches, women buying bigger case sizes, and very often products now more commonly becoming unisex. And oddly enough, that kind of goes hand in hand with the new CEO of Audemars Piguet is doing she really, and we'll talk about that in a second, she really heavily invested into ladies' pieces, right? They're saying younger people started leaning towards companies like Rolex for having long-lasting products that trade hands, which is better for the environment and appealing to a younger generation. Not really big news. Rolex has always been a first money watch. But bottom line is that they're expecting an uptick in the U.S. market. They're seeing its growth, which is great news for us, being predominantly in the U.S. market, and great news for all of you guys out there that are sitting there considering, well, is it time to jump back in? Because that's the question we're being asked by a lot of collectors. As the market bottomed out, is it time to jump back in? Well, don't listen to us, listen to Watches of Switzerland.
Well, we've certainly seen on our data start to change in terms of the demographics of people that have been buying watches from us has significantly got lower and lower and lower. I mean, if you go back to when we first started, or when I first started, I mean, I don't ever remember selling anything to anybody under 25 years old. That was just not a thing, you know.
100%.
So that's very good news, because I think a lot of the money, and I think a lot of the influence is going to come from the younger generation moving forward.
Let's throw our numbers into it. We started the year strong, right? Very strong, actually. Then we saw a slowdown, I would say, last month, beginning of last month and end of the prior month. We're starting this month off fairly strong. It's just, would you say our numbers coincide with what they're saying?
I think it's fair to say. I mean, April is always a weird one because of tax season and everything, right? And it kind of comes in waves. And what I've seen is like it really depends on the type of merchandise that's out there in the market. For example, earlier this year, January, February, March, there was a ridiculous uptick in Pepsis because, from what I understand, there was a very small allocation to the world in regards to Pepsis. So we saw the price levels of those jump up, and now they've kind of simmered back down a little bit as more have hit the market. So it's all dependent on what these factories put out into the market.
Which is why it's good to take the data that we provide from Watches of Switzerland, because they're 51% Rolex, and even us, because last year we were 32% Rolex, right? Rolex is always a good indicator, and obviously Watches of Switzerland being the leader, I guess it's good news overall for everybody, us, them, and people out in the market that are looking to jump back in or are holding some of these pieces, wondering, hey, should I sell them? Should I keep them? What's going to happen? But let's go to my favorite brand, Audemars Piguet, and they quietly introduced new models. There wasn't a big stink about them. Of course, I love it how they say they quietly released them, but yet the entire internet was buzzing about them, right? So Mini Royal Oak, a new skeleton, and a curveball of a new model, which is
a few shiny ones.
A few shiny ones.
Bejeweled ones.
So let's go to the Royal Oak Mini Frosted Gold, right?
So I think before we jump into it, I think it's very important to point out that, as we've actually discussed earlier this year, is that the CEO of Audemars Piguet, which is a woman, she decided to really tackle the ladies market, and there was a lot of speculation in terms of how she's going to do that, and will demand remain as strong for the brand. So I think this is all coming into fruition, and thus far, she's made some really, really beautiful watches.
I will agree. And I love the fact that they brought back the 23 millimeter Royal Oak. This coincides with the overall market, right? The market has been going smaller for men Obviously, it's going to go smaller for women. You see a lot of women out there buying the neo-vintage or vintage older Cartiers that are tiny, the Panthers and all those tiny little watches that are 20 millimeters across. And I think this will work well with that. And look at the price, $34,000. I think on the one end, it's reasonable in comparison, considering this is gold. On the other hand, it's not so reasonable because we're looking at the 2730 quartz movement. It's a quartz watch, which ladies prefer.
I was going to say, so there's definitely two ways to look at it. It's like, look, 34.4 price model on a full gold Royal Oak seemingly seems low, and considering the fact that it's frosted, and we know the engineering that goes behind that.
Win or loss?
Again, the thing that always remains the same. The biggest question is when they release these models, it's like, what does the allocation look like? And we're going to get into a few other models shortly. Does this become their line? Are they going to line up their boutiques with a lot of these pieces, or is it going to be kind of like a slow play out there? Because
if they're smart, they're going to make very, very few of these to ensure that these things don't sit. I've already had 3 calls on them. Somebody already called me three different people asking for them.
The way to look at this is part watch, part piece of jewelry.
100%.
That's all it is.
I will leave it with this. I would actually give that to my wife. If I brought that home, she would really like that. She would say, "Oh, that's so cute. I want to wear it."
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any brand out there does better at following and setting trends than Audemars Piguet.
Let's go to the next guy, and that's, again, smaller, right? Crystal sandal finish, obviously taking a cue from the Perpetual made for the John Mayer, right? They made these in a 34 millimeter. Again, frosted gold. Now, I agree with frosted here more than the previous models because that frosted goes really, really well with the ruthenium crystal dial, right? A $62,000 price tag. We're getting up there. Ladies Royal Oaks were 33 millimeters. That's how they came out of the gate way back in the day. That's how we sold them, straps, bracelets, you name it. They've kind of gone back to that same size. I mean, that 1 millimeter, it does make a difference, but they've gone back to the roots in terms of size because the Ladies Royal Oak was historically 33 mm. And again, they threw the frosted in there. They threw the new dial because why not? Aesthetically, I think they're amazing. The white gold with the rose gold markers specifically.
We've always liked white gold frosting because whatever you throw up against it just makes it really pop. And sometimes you can get rose or yellow gold and the dial or whatever it goes up against kind of gets lost in the way. But I'm a big fan of this. A 34 millimeter for women, I think, is the sweet spot because, a 34 AP is not the same face value as a 34, let's say, Rolex.
Of course.
It's thicker, beveled edges. It's just the way it's engineered. So I think 34 is a sweet spot.
I think this is going to be a hit, and again, depending on how many they put out there, and Audemars Piguet needs to make sure that these do not sit on a shelf, and that's how you manage. Manage your demand.
Historically, everything we've seen frosted. First off, again, I cannot imagine just because of the level of difficulty of creating these watches.
How well did the ceramic do in that size?
Very well. I mean, it's still a significant premium.
Okay, so yeah, this is much prettier. Let's go to the next one. Again,
baby.
This is going to be interesting, right? Because you have technically probably the most sought after Royal Oak when it comes to what the model is, i.e., the double balance, right? And now you scale that down to a 37 millimeter. Where it does...
Well, it's nothing new, right? We have 37 millimeter double skeletons. I guess the thing to point out here is the different colors and the dials.
Yeah, well, the different colors and the dials is absolutely amazing. The white gold, again, I love the rose, but the white gold, they knocked it out of the park. That little addition of blue, the redecoration of the skeleton itself, right? It is different from its predecessors. They're appealing to those men that are going smaller, but yet they can still hit the ladies market with this. And I don't know how well these will do. I think
they're catering this more towards the ladies. I really, really believe so. Notice how a lot of brands are incorporating a lot more white gold across the board. Think about it. White gold's back and heavy. Patek did it.
Yeah.
Their Nautiluses.
Well, Patek, it was a natural progression. This is what they always do. They come out with a model in one gold and they go to the next gold, right? But I don't know. Here's the thing. This would be the perfect size for mine and your size wrist.
Nah, too small for me.
Nah, because in reality, that's going to be the perfect size. I think this is a good way of, again, hitting the men's market looking for smaller watches, yet appealing to women that still want that bigger look, that bigger watch at the 37 millimeter. And again, this is also appealing to women in a different way. This is appealing to women in a horological aspect because people, for the longest time, They looked at the double balance as that hot watch that sells buku dollars over retail, not considering the fact that this is also a high horology piece being a double balance. It's super accurate.
It's often overlooked when somebody's buying a double balance. Nobody really.
The problem is when it comes to any hot Royal Oak, horology is overlooked, period. People see dollar signs first and foremost. They see hype second, and maybe horology somewhere down at number 7. 98.1 list sells over list.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next one. And
this is crazy.
I looked at this watch, right? This Gemset Code 1159, and at first I was like, I don't know, but then the more I looked at it, the more I saw it. Great job.
Love it.
Again, still part of the effort of appealing to the female client.
Love it.
But here's the thing: is that this is also a watch that could be worn by men, measuring it at 38 millimeters. Anybody that wants to wear a Gemset watch, I could
definitely see Elton John wearing it. Otherwise,
listen,
I don't know, man. This is when in regards to feminine. I mean, this is as feminine and beautiful.
Have you seen the last award shows? How feminine males have gone when it came to jewelry, when it came to certain watches, it's like more and more that line between men and women when it comes to, again, it's very avant-garde, some of the stuff that guys wore on the carpet where it's just like, really, right?
Well, certain celebrities can get away with that, but your average Joe
is not wearing that. You're absolutely right. Is this a watch you would give to your wife?
I would. I love the attention to detail on the dial and what Audemars probably has to go through to pick out each individual stone and set it is probably a crazy tedious process as it is. And the thing looks like a kaleidoscope. I'd imagine in person it's just like lights up.
I have one hot take on this watch. You see how the dial is inset, it's sort of deep, and you have all that real estate around that dial. I wish that wasn't there. I wish the bezel was super thin and those sapphires were spread among the entire face rather than leaving that entire bevel on the outside. That's my only pet peeve.
Well, again, this is a rendering, all right. So I don't know what it's going to look like in real life, but I can definitely see what you're saying. We'll see what it looks like in person.
I almost feel like if they think IWC Portuguese that virtually has no bezel, right? All you see is the dial, right? I wish they kind of did that, but then again, the DNA of a Code 1159 has to still be in place. So listen, let's see.
I'm not sure that's the
$103,000 retail. My call is this does not sell over list.
In the beginning, it does. Anything that drops over list, and then probably again, this is probably going to be one of those leverage pieces.
It's a tough price tag to swallow. $103,700 plus tax. It's a tough price tag to swallow. Let's
533.
What?
533 stones is what it says.
533 stones.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. Wow. Chroma Gold. I love companies coming up with the fanciest.
Chroma Gold.
Everose for Rolex.
Sedna.
Honey Gold for Longa.
Sedna Gold for
Hublot. It's just they keep coming up with funky ways to name things. But Audemars being the leader, when it comes to material, people always ask me, who's the leader when it comes to usage of materials? It's hands down Audemars Piguet, and number 2 is not even remotely close based on everything they've done thus far. And they did it again.
Well, how about Richard Mille?
Audemars Piguet, been there, done that.
Gotcha.
Carbon, rubber, ceramics. The list goes on and on and on, right? But now they're calling this spark plasma sintering technology, right? So they take a bunch of gold variations,
That's cool.
They melt it down, and then droplets are atomized into powers, and then they use electric current to kind of mold it all together, and you get that, and that's fucking cool. It's so cool.
That is pretty cool. You know what this watch reminds me of? Winnie Harlow.
Yes, the one that has the different color face.
Where what seems like a, for lack of a better term, a defect, it actually turns out to be something of beauty, like a birthmark. And that's kind of what this watch reminds me of. I can't wait to see what it looks like in person. It's I think this is one of those watches
where it's the first in its industry. Theoretically, what I don't know is that is each pattern going to be the same as they go through this process? Meaning, is this set in stone as we see it now?
They all the same?
Are they all going to be the same, or is the pattern going to differ?
Is it like a meteorite type of situation? Is what you're saying? Like, does each one vary?
No, but see, so they come up with a pattern, right? So they take yellow gold, rose gold, white gold, right? They atomize it into powers.
How do they exact that pattern on every single individual watch?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That'd be kind of cool.
No, what would be cool
is like a zebra, like a tiger with stripes. No stripes are the same.
Exactly. So that's the question that comes to mind when it comes to this watch.
But again, tiger.
You look like a tiger, man.
You look like a tiger, man. You look like a tiger, lady.
I want to wait and see the watch in person.
I like it.
And I want to see what that's going to look like across when you start adding complications, i.e. chronograph.
No, don't do that. Bad idea. Too busy. This is perfect. We talked about the Royal Oak being the best blank canvas. This is as blank of a canvas as you can get with the time only.
Give me that in the skeleton. I would love to see this Royal Oak, but I would like to see it with porcelain black dial, kind of like in a Royal Oak tuxedo, so that the case really pops, because right now the case blends with the dial. I would love to split.
It's supposed to be like a camouflage.
I get it. Listen, we don't have any numbers on this watch. This is definitely selling over lists when it comes out of the gate. I think it's going to be one of the hottest ones to go after, depending on sizes. Let's go to the next size.
So I would say so far, in terms of reaching the ladies market and all the innovation that they're doing thus far, I don't really think you can do a better job.
All right, so now they went backwards and they made the remaster to asymmetrical 41 millimeters. Another new gold. Remember sand gold? Remember that one? That came out not too long ago, right? Now brutalism is basically minimalism, architecture style, mid 20th century. Basically rendered with concrete slabs. Think Soviet Union.
So that's an actual.
Think Soviet Union, 1965.
I thought that was like a joke. Brutalism.
No. Brutalism is actually a architecture style.
I thought that was like an adjective to describe how brutal that watch looks.
Think Soviet buildings, circa 1960s, 1950s. They just took a bunch of concrete slabs, slapped them together.
Only you have experience.
Yeah, I know. I lived in one of those, right? Now they did make asymmetrical models back early 60s.
Can't barely tell the time.
Back in the early 60s, right? And most of them were producing like less than 10 pieces. And this is basically going back into the archives and saying, okay, let's recreate, because that's what remasters are all about. All right, now, dark blue PVD treatment on the dial looks amazing. Cool. The markers, the way they blend with the hands, also amazing. Nice size of 41 millimeters, not too big. I don't know how tall it is. I would imagine it's going to be somewhat bulky on the wrist. 47.2, limited to 250. I spoke to probably 15 different collectors and 50 different clients WhatsApp me and DM me asking what my thoughts are. I love it for the fact that I love architecture. I do like the minimalist style. I do like the brutalism. It represents it well. I just don't know how well this watch does.
Here's my take on it. Regardless of the way it looks, there have been watches that have come out that I have given, I would say, a negative review on immediately. And then when I saw it in real life, in the wild, on somebody and how they wear it, completely switched my whole entire viewpoint on it. This is one of those things where
I'll give you a better one. A client calls you today and says, Roman, I can buy this at list. I've had that. What do you tell them? Limited, but limited to 250. That's not.
It's not. First of all, okay. Look, the price tag is not astronomically high, right? Relatively speaking, to limited to AP.
Plain watch.
47,000 retail. I mean, if you look historically on the last remaster, it was a complete flop. Just not like that watch at all. This is a little bit more interesting, in my opinion.
It's going to be something that's recognizable. It's going to be something that somebody's going to look at and say, "Oh, wow, what is that?" Definitely conversation starter. Look, again, 250 made, 47.2 list. Is it a buy? If I offered you to buy this at list today, do you buy it?
I buy it if I'm a client that's looking that wants to buy it for themselves. I'm not
as a dealer
for resale. No, I don't think so.
See, I think otherwise.
It depends when. If I'm the first on the market, then it's yes. If it's coming to me 3 months after they're on the market, then you don't know.
I think
if I'm the first
you know
one,
what I'm calling on this. And again, that doesn't mean I'm willing to take that risk, but I think what I'm calling on this is a super careful allocation to specific clients, not available just to whatever, right? Not on the market, and for somebody that wants one is going to have to pay over list for it. That's what I think is going to happen. If AP is smart, they're going to allocate these to choice collectors, and they will get 250 of those true collectors are going to be like, wow, I want this, I don't care, and I am going to keep this and I'm not going to resell it.
Yeah, I think
that's the only way this thing goes over.
I think you got to slow play it.
Yes, but you slow play it by giving it to those that you know will never resell it.
How do you know?
They know. They know.
Sure.
What else we got?
They are the FBI of the watch world.
No,
them dudes.
No, the next brand is the FBI of the watch world.
They're the CIA.
FB Journe.
Yeah.
And so they did the final limited edition. All right. So it's going to be his last restricted run of timepieces in order to fend off speculators. So no more limited edition for FP Journe. They're marking the 20th anniversary of the Force Boutique and introducing manual non-round-trip chrono. 200 pieces, limited edition. Again, making it the very, very last limited editions, right? Now they're not gonna engrave edition numbers on its casebacks or produce watches in fixed limited series anymore. And I quote, the reason why it is the last limited edition is because Francois Paul says limited editions are a sign of weakness. Pierre, this is according to Pierre from Florida. We're trying to do as many watches as possible, but remember that each watch is fully assembled by one watchmaker. Note that during the warranty period, should the watch come back full and issued, it goes to the watchmaker that assembled it, not to an after-sale service. He also leveled a polite warning to speculators. It still happens that collectors sell their watches eagerly. We manage to find them sooner or later. The penalty is not too severe. This person finds himself at the end of the waiting list with the impossibility of buying a new watch for a few years. I don't know what that statement was all about. It's a little cocky to me. Let's pull the watch up on the screen.
Yeah, look, so there's a few ways to look at it. First, I'm just going to give my overall thoughts on the watch, and I would actually, any Tokyo edition over the years, whether it was this, the Resonance, the Calendrier, the Chronographe from 2016, that color scheme with the ruthenium dial and the burgundy and the gold markers is just exceptionally beautiful.
You know what I can't
so beautiful.
You know what I can't see?
What?
2014 limited edition Jules Audemars Tour Auto.
You bugging. Aesthetics on each watch I just identified is unbelievable. I know that Journe sent all the top collectors on a wild goose chase over to Tokyo to be able to have the opportunity to get one of these. And I will say that this whole, that idea that a limited edition is a sign of weakness, I mean, what does that mean? That's like, where did you get that from?
I think they're stemming from the fact that, you're trying to create hype and demand based on the fact that something is limited, rather than it being, a wonderful horological timepiece, blah, 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 and so on and so forth.
Well, so I think brands have, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the past actually did this to highlight the achievements of a certain point of sale, commemoration of a certain point of sale. I think it's actually like a thank you and giving back to that point of sale. I think it's important. If a boutique like Tokyo has done wonders for them, right, in terms of brand recognition, in terms of what they did for the clients, and why not allocate a watch like this every couple years to the boutique? I think it's a phenomenal idea. Richard Mille still does limited editions, they kill. AP still does limited editions, they kill. So how can Journe say something like that?
I think that's why I felt that this whole thing and this statement by Pierre came off cocky to me.
A little bit.
A little bit? No, I think it came off a lot of it cocky. Now, there's no doubt that all of them are already all spoken for, 106,000 retail, which is completely irrelevant. If one comes out on the market, I think it'll be triple that, if not more. And because, again, of how tough for these things to come back out on the market. People always ask me, well, why is that? Well, because they keep such a tight ship. They're so personal with every single one of their clients that's going to be getting one of these, that those clients almost feel ashamed to sell their watch and afraid of, getting kicked out of that inner circle, as I called it, as I talked about earlier. And a great example of that is the Ricchepi, why they fetch so much on the secondary, because they just don't come out on the secondary. And if you want one and you don't want to wait 10 years for a watch, this is what you do. And I don't
know what it is about that. I would say, for lack of a better term, cocky attitude makes me want to watch even more. Like I don't know, something about it just makes me want it more.
It
reminds me of Conor McGregor. Like, you can't hate him. He's just so cocky and so foul, and you just can't.
You're probably not wrong.
You just want to watch.
You're probably not wrong. I can't think of anything on this particular watch that I would change aesthetically. Yeah, it also has a gold movement, by the way. I also don't know.
It's titanium too,
I just don't know how I feel about.
Here he goes, looking to find something.
No, because that's what I do. At the end of the day, I'm not going to do anything about it. I don't have anything to do with it. But as somebody, I look at horology, which nothing to bitch about here. They put a new caliber in, by the way. But then I go back to aesthetics and I say, if I were to make it, what would I do? And honestly, I think that the crown and the pushers, I would not make that in gold. I would keep that. I don't know. I feel like
crazy.
I feel like they just don't.
Oh man!
Like everything on the dial with the hands and everything works, but I don't know. Like I look at it and the buttons pop out at me, and I feel like they should have been titanium.
I disagree.
Or black.
I mean, I think it's a perfect coordination with the hands, with the numerals, with everything. FB Journe, great job.
Definitely a great job, FB Journe. Not much I can say. It's like, it's so good that you almost want to try to nitpick at something, and it makes it difficult. Last, we're going to talk about a brand that I love, and we're going to talk about, again, new material, pushing the boundaries when it comes to materials, showing us that companies are taking aesthetics pretty seriously, especially innovation within aesthetics in terms of use of new materials. Because look, it worked for AP for the longest time. It worked for Richard Mille, and every brand wants to follow suit and make some kind of waves in the market, right? Until AP says, okay, hold my beer, right? So IWC did a Ceralume, luminous ceramic technology, which basically made the whole damn thing fully ceramic and glow in the dark.
It reminds me of when the vintage dealers be like, any lume? Yes.
So this enables IWC to basically produce fully luminous ceramic cases for the first time. Nobody has done that before. In dark chamber tests, a full luminous concept watch manufactured using the Ceralume technology has emitted a bright bluish light for more than 24 hours. That's pretty amazing. All right.
Well, so much for not wanting to stand out.
Yeah. Now, there are no Ceralume IWC watches that you can buy at this time. They didn't really exactly come out with a watch. They just announced the prototype, and they announced that they have the technology. My only concern with, let's throw the picture up on the screen.
That's just Cybertruck.
This is insane. This is pretty insane. Even the straps glow in the dark. It's crazy. My question to you is, how practical is that? You're walking around with a flashlight in your wrist, anywhere you go.
There's definitely no stealth to it whatsoever. You know what I mean? I mean, IWC historically is definitely like a military type watch with pilots and stuff like that, but I mean, there's no stealth here whatsoever.
That doesn't have an off button.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it gimmicky? Is it their way of being bold and trying to stand out?
Look, put it this way: would I buy that pilot? Absolutely. You know, just to say, oh, yeah, I have this watch and it's so cool. But then I don't know. You're literally walking around with a flashlight. Every time it gets dark, there's a flashlight on your wrist that you cannot turn off.
What about when it's like there's sunlight? Just looks just like that. I mean, does it glow in this, like, you know what I mean?
No, it's not going to look that way. It only looks that way in the dark. I mean, those pictures are obviously taken in complete pitch darkness. It's not going to be that bright. But the bottom line is, come nighttime, you're somewhere in the dark, you have a flashlight in your wrist, and I don't know how practical that is. Let's move on. You guys comment below. You let us know your thoughts. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. And we're going to finish this off with...
we should have started with this.
No, we're going to finish this off with a banger, and that's the last and final Rafael Nadal Tourbillon, the 2705.
Unfortunately,
climatic conclusion is what they call this, right?
Dude, I'm sad.
11.5 grams. 11.5 grams, okay? And it is resistant to accelerations in excess of 14,000 Gs.
Gs.
That's like, how does that even happen?
I don't know.
How do you even do that? Look, it's a dual record for a manual winding tourbillon wristwatch. Let's start there. The weight and acceleration resistance, right? Horology. Anybody talks about Richard Mille saying, oh, they're just plastic toys, don't, because you know what? The technology is there, the horology is there, the horological feats are there, everything is there, and this watch is sort of like the perfect example. Carbon TPT, obviously. Guys, keep in mind, that's stuff that was originally used by Formula 1 applications, right? Monoblock design. Okay, so the middle case, the case back, are machined from a single piece of carbon TPT B.4. It reminds me of Rush Hour, G14 classified. I love how they come up with this naming technology, right? The movement is mounted directly into the structure, without the use of any screws, right? And again, all those things.
How do you do that?
Well, if I was Richard Mille, I would
tell
crazy. You how to do that, right? So the bezel and outer bezel dial flange secure the movement onto the lower case by pressing down on them from above base. So they sandwich in that movement kind of thing, in layman's terms, right? And, to help it achieve the ultra lightweight, okay? And mind you, this weight is without strap, to be fair. The crystal is made from PM8 polymer, okay? It's a scratch-resistant coating that it has on top, and the screw fluids movement and case back are made from grade 5 titanium, and the water resistance for this model is kept to a minimum at just 10 meters to protect against incidental contact. Price at $1,150,000. This is an 80-piece limited edition, and it'll be, again, the final watch from the partnership.
So I find this to be very, very bittersweet, more on the bitter side than the sweet side, because Rafael Nadal is probably my favorite athlete ever. Richard Mille is one of my favorite brands ever, and his whole lineage and collection of watches is my favorite collection of watches, period. In fact, if I was top G collector, my collections would include every Nadal model and every 5970. But let's get back to Richard Mille. I have one issue with the watch. Is that it's, and if I stand correctly, the only 27 that in which he will most likely not hoist a trophy in.
You're so biased by the fact that you love Rafa as a tennis player. Well, but then it would be the same for me when it comes to Formula One drivers and the Richard Milles they make for them. I see where you're coming from.
It's the one. This is the one that most likely he will not be hoisting a trophy.
So if I had to pick one, I am picking the tennis racket one. That's the 4? The
2704,
the 2704 with the predecessor, right? If I had to have my choice from an aesthetic perspective, because it literally looks like a tennis racket and it just works, you know? Aesthetics on this is giving me the 6702 vibes, like heavy.
A lot,
but
yeah.
What I do like is that you see
I like the gold.
You see the monster movement. Pretty much everything you see, it's on display for you to enjoy. The horology is right there for you to enjoy. I think aesthetically, they knocked it out of the park with the swatch. There's not a single thing on here that I would change, believe it or not. Just not one. I think comfort level is going to be insane. It's going to be that of a 6702.
Almost too comfortable considering Rafa.
Even the Ronald McDonald one. Like, honestly, like, it's so different that it's and like sometimes something is so ugly it's pretty.
Well, that's my least favorite of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, I would go in order. I'd go 4, 5, then 1 and 2 and 3.
Hard to say. I got to go with the OG 27. Just
right,
plain black.
That's what I meant by 1.
Yeah.
So for me, it's going to be. 4.
This is going to be my least favorite.
This is going to be your least favorite?
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to make this my second favorite.
It's going to be my least favorite because I have an emotional tie to him. And, like, I didn't know that a 2705 was coming out. And then I watched his match with Zverev last week. And I'm always looking at the watch. And I'm like, did they switch out the crown for him? Because the 2704 is on a white crown. And I'm like, wait, is that a new watch? And then he lost in the first round. Unfortunately for me, that's just something I cannot get over. So this is why it's my least favorite watch because we know that
Nadal can get over it, and I'm sure Richard Mille can get over it because they made 80 of these. That's
too many. Why 80? I wonder why 80. Like, what is that number?
Is there anything about his wins or something? Like, you should know this better than me.
Grand Slams.
That's not happening. Look, technology, horology, design, aesthetics. Just everything about this thing is just a knockout. I'm sorry. I absolutely love this watch. And we're going to end it with that. That's going to be it for us this week. Some really cool new releases from, my favorite brand, your favorite brand.
No doubt.
Just Nadal. I think IWC is going in the right directions in terms of innovation. It's going to be cool to see these watches in person in the near future. My take on this is a $2 million plus watch on a secondary.
Ooh, double.
Yeah, almost double. $2 million, I think, is the price. Is where this thing settles.
Considering 2704 is settling in around like 1617 right now.
Yeah.
So
guys, I appreciate you all tuning in. Remember, we put a lot of time and effort into this. You know what to do. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.